Um, Thank you. I was on the Anastasia tour most recently, and before that, I was doing some off Broadway and off Broadway. So that's me. I'm from Sacramento, California, and I'm currently living in Washington Heights.
And hey guys, my name is Matt Bur. Um, I am from Michigan. I'm from the Midwest, and I most recently was an ASM on the Broadway production of Beetlejuice, and I was involved with that for a long time. So I've done that for a few years, and then before that, I was doing The Play That Goes Wrong and the Jimmy Buffett musical Escaped Margaretaville.
Awesome. I'll just start off with my question and then we'll get to other people. What is a stage manager and why is it important? I'll have Matt start.
I think a really cool thing about stage management is that there is not one answer to this, and it means something different to all people. And so Rachel and I, we might give maybe different answers, and that's what it's supposed to be. I think a stage manager is the glue that holds all creative departments together. So there's a million people on a creative team. There's a bunch of different people in the cast. There are the stage hands. There's press. There's a million departments that make theater happen, and stage management is the team that holds all those things together, that coordinates all those events happening, that keeps the show running. And I like stage management because I was interested in all of those things, and I couldn't decide which to do. And this job kind of lets me have a hand in all of them.
Yeah, like Matt said, stage management for me is sort of like the spokes of a wheel, or like sort of the intersecting points to all of the things that have to happen. Coordinating all the creatives and all the not creative aspects sort of all falls to us, as well as the fun part of calling a show and getting to sort of have our own creative hand in making the show run smoothly, especially for long shows.
Unmute Alice and feel free to ask a question.
I was just wondering, what are some of the hardest parts about being a stage manager?
Hardest parts. I would say probably personalities can be hard. Trying to stay Switzerland, if you will, in when issues come up. Also, just technically speaking, sometimes calling can be hard. We had a really, really difficult sequence in Anastasia, the number Perry at the top of track 2. So it just depends what we're talking about, but I would definitely say, the managing of personalities, I would probably say is the trickiest. Can't really practice that. What about you, Matt?
I completely agree with that. I think that our theater community is my favorite group of people, but it's also a group of people that feel very strongly about many different things. And so managing different kinds of people can be very difficult. And then also when you're doing a bigger technical show, you are responsible for making massive decisions on the fly that you definitely have never made before. I never really feel like I'm prepared for some of the problems that come up. I just have to trust my own skills. But so every day is different, and every day offers some kind of big challenge.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for anybody who wants to start or just try out stage managing, either just for doing it, either as a hobby or just maybe want to take it into a career?
I would say start as soon as possible and start doing it at any level. I was really lucky. I decided I wanted to be a stage manager when I was in high school, and my theater teacher really pushed me and made me do all the tasks of a real stage manager while in school, and that gave me a lot of early skills. I went to college for stage management, which allowed me to make a lot of mistakes before I was in the real world, and they were mistakes that were going to matter and affect my career. I would just say anywhere that you can find a position as a stage manager, I would hop on it take the opportunity.
Yeah, I would say if you're just starting out wanting to try it out, reach out to everyone you can who can help you, give you advice, or kind of point you the right way. I would also say like general career advice for stage managers, sort of like we were talking about before, but always be nice to everybody. You never know who your boss is going to be or who's going to be working under you. So general kindness. But in terms of networking, like try and reach out to everybody, even if, I got a lot of jobs because I Facebook messaged someone, a stranger. So you never know. Yeah, just reach out and see who you can meet.
It depends on the show and the stage managers, but I did a lot of shadowing and observing. So like writing to shows and asking to come in and watch what they do for a performance. I did so much of that in high school and college. And so now when I'm on a team, I make sure that at Beetlejuice, for example, we had 2 people shadowing a week. We constantly had people in because that was important to us. And so I would advise doing that as well.
All right. Unmute Michaela.
Hi there, I'm Michaela. You just mentioned shadowing and observing, and I am currently a student at Florida State University, and I have intentions of trying to get as much, trying to learn firsthand as much as possible, even if that means I might not, be doing anything directly. How can I, as a student, be observing legit professionals and stuff like that? How does that process work?
Like, how do you physically get to observe and shadow? Is that what you were saying? Yeah. Okay. Multiple things depending on where you live in the country. I also shadowed at a lot of tours, and so if you can't come to New York, that is also a great opportunity if they're able to do it. I always prefer writing a letter to the stage door. We get a lot of mail there, and sending a resume, sending a basic letter of this is who I am, this is where I go to school, I want to actually be a stage manager, I'm not just a fan of the show, and then we'll respond to you from there. So I always recommend writing letters because we'll always get those.
Yeah, on Anastasia, we had a lot of people reach out through the venue we would be playing at. So if there's a venue near your school, you can have your program reach out, or you can reach out to the venue and say, I'm really interested in shadowing. When shows come through, can you please give my name? And we had a lot of people come through that way in all different cities. So just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. Okay. What does it mean to be an ASM versus the stage manager? What's the difference and what does each one entail?
Sure. So ASM, it sort of goes ASM, stage manager, PSM, although it's all one team. And generally, I feel like maybe experiences are different, Matt, but generally, I feel like teams are really good about not being too hierarchical about it. I just recently started dabbling in TV, and it's very hierarchical. So I love that about theater. But the ASM does a lot more of the running around and the props. The stage manager is sort of the go-between for the PSM a lot of times. And the PSM is really deep in email, doing a lot of, big picture, media, contract stuff like that. What about you, Matt? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the PSM definitely has a hand in all, not a hand in, but they're mostly in charge of the scheduling and the direct communication with the creative team. And when someone is leaving the show, when you're getting new cast members, they're the ones that are explaining the character intention to these new actors. And I think the rest of the team, we know all that information, but we have more of a hand in the props and what's happening backstage and where quick changes are. And so in the same instance of a new cast member coming in, the PSM can tell them, this is where you need to go number wise, this is where you're going to dance next, this is your intention for the scene. I can say, when you walk off, this is where you're going to go, this is where your quick changes, who you'll meet, where your props are. And so I think we focus on different parts of the production.
And we also get to do a lot of different things. So on our show, we rotated calling. We rotated prop presets. So we had a lot of, we got to do different rehearsals for people. So it all kind of is shared, but there is, the PSM is definitely the one that has to do all the heavy lifting most of the time.
Awesome. Do you guys have any favorite or least favorite parts about stage managing?
I would say that my favorite part is calling a show, especially when it's newer. When I first started calling Beetlejuice, for example, Beetlejuice it was a very, very big show, and it was the first show I was calling on Broadway, and that was a lot. But when you can make that show happen, when the curtain comes in and you think of all the crazy tech elements, the crazy storylines, everything that just went through for the last 2.5 hours, you specifically coordinated those things happening and made the show happen. Oh my God, it's just the best feeling. So I would say when you first start learning to call a show and you do it successfully the first couple times, for me, nothing's better than that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Learning the call of Anastasia at the Kennedy Center was pretty tops. But I think in calling a really great show, or even backstage when, like, you know, you coordinate it in the right way so it all comes together, sort of like the group effort coming alive on stage is really awesome. Yeah. But my least favorite part of stage management, which will come to no surprise to Matt, is being the bad cop, which I feel like as stage managers, we often have to be the bad cop. You can't sit there, you can't be drinking that over here, you can't, you know. So it is tricky to, you know, be the bad cop, but also be someone that people want to come to and talk to. So it's a balancing act.
Awesome. Is there something that I know a lot of us are actors in here, something that we might not know that you guys as professional stage managers do?
I definitely I don't want to mean this in a condescending way, because that's not at all what I mean. But I think that most people actually don't know most of what we do. There were times on the shows I do professionally with people who have been in their acting careers for decades, would see us doing something, or they'd come to the deck an hour early and they would witness us checking a prop or coordinating a session with wardrobe, but a million things. They're like, you do that too? And we're like, yeah. What do you think we do? I think that a lot of what we do is coordinating behind the scenes things. That's not really answered your question. I think we do a million things that people don't know. We really have a hand in every part of the show that's happening, and I mean that, every single part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Rachel feels that's something more specific.
Well, yeah, I agree. We have our like main duties, you know. Tuesday, Wednesday, we check stage right, and Thursday we call, whatever it is. But then a lot of our day is just spent putting little tiny fires out that are going up everywhere, and it's not something we explain to other people because it's maybe a private thing, or maybe it's, you know, under the radar, whatever. But there is a lot of fire putting out as well.
Alice?
Yeah, and I think both of you said that you have done stage managing for tours. So what are sort of the differences between staying in one place and moving around?
I have not. I've only worked in New York, but Rachel, please go ahead.
Well, I've never done the Broadway, so we could speak to it. But I think that tour is very similar to Broadway, except that you don't have to pack it up and unload it. So maybe you get a little more time off. For tour, you know, we pack up. I had the wonderful task that I actually really liked. That sounded sarcastic, but it wasn't. Of packing up during the last show of the week. I just thought it was fun organizing everything into the little box, and then Monday is travel day, so we travel to the next city, and then Tuesday we get in at 8:00 and we unpack it all again and put up all the signs and set up the call board, and otherwise it kind of runs like a Broadway show, aside from trying to teach all the locals what they're supposed to do. Even something as simple as like open this curtain when I point to you can often be difficult. And on Broadway, I think, Matt, you get to have the same locals most of the time.
That was, I haven't done tour, so I don't want to speak for you, but my best friend is a stage manager on tour, and we were just talking recently about him going back to his show, and the way that he describes what he knows about the crew's tracks, I feel like I could have explained to you what any crew member at any show I do does, but the level of detail that you guys have to know, the specificity, I've just never had to put that in my brain because I don't have to teach it to people. So I think that you guys actually might end up knowing a lot more about your shows than you have to in New York. So props to you.
Okay. I have questions directed to both of you. So, Matt, what was it like being a replacement stage manager, and did you have like rehearsals, or what was that experience?
I kind of had the best replacement experience because I was involved with the show beforehand. So I had been a part of Beetlejuice as a production assistant for workshops and labs, and then our out of town tryout, and then for Broadway, and then I was the first sub once we started performances on Broadway. So it was great for me because by the time I joined the show, I subbed on a Sunday, and then my first official show was on a Tuesday, and my life didn't really change that much. But then learning the show initially, learning the tracks, I basically, I would come in and say, you're going to learn stage right. And so for several days, I would trail that stage manager, and I would watch them do it as they explain all their cues to me, and I would take my own notes. I'd watch them do it a couple more times, then they'd watch me do it a few times. And so I would say less than a week, but you get maybe 4 or 5 shows to learn each track of the production. So you get your own like personal training time.
Sorry. Okay. And then for Rachel, what was it like traveling? Sure, we've already talked about that, but was it like stressful, or was it fun since you were in a different place almost like every week, or was it just a breeze after a certain amount of time because it's just the same show, or because it's different locations? Did it feel different?
Sure. So it was sort of a different experience for me a little bit because I was hired as the second, so the second ASM, and then the first is what you call the stage manager. So I was hired as the second, and we were maybe a week and a half into rehearsals when the first quit. So they moved me up to first, and then we hired, actually one of my good friends came in to be the second. So, and it was my first tour, so I was still kind of trying to figure out what the second was supposed to do. So it was definitely a learning experience for me, I think. And then, once you start to get comfortable with the tour is when you start to learn the call as the first. So it was, and then once I learned it, we taught my second the call. So I would say it was probably like 6 months, 5 or 6 months before we were like, we could do it in our sleep easy. Because when I start to learn the call is when Ellen, who is the second, and I also were sort of figuring out the combined deck track. So, I teched the show on stage right, she teched the show on stage left, but in order for one of us to walk away, we had to combine our deck tracks into one. So that was a process that took a little while. And yeah, I would say in terms of like lifestyle of tour, it was really fun. It got a little old living out of a suitcase for sure. But it was kind of like grown-up summer camp, like you end up loving all the people you're with and you get to travel to different places. And so it was fun. Yeah.
And then another question directed to both of you. If you weren't a stage manager, what other job in the theater would you like to take on? So like as an actor or another kind of crew member?
I think I would want a position that's not directly in the building. I think I would be very interested in being a scenic designer. That was something that when I was in high school, I would design things for funsies, and I loved doing that. I loved taking a story and creating something out of it. And I particularly love the fact that I'm a big like technical theater person. I like the big and glamorous, and that's what I'm into. And I love the fact that these little tiny Broadway theaters, that the theaters themselves are not getting any bigger, but the productions are. And how do you squeeze these massive set pieces into a theater where there's no logic that it fits into the building? And so to figure out that and to coordinate creating this massive scale production, I think would be so much fun. I would love that.
Yeah, I think I would probably, if we're dreaming, if we can do anything, I would say director, probably.
Right. That is all I have. What here, let me where are you here? Okay, I can't find you on my screen. But the question was, what musical would you like to bring back to Broadway? Or actually, let me rephrase. What's a show that you would like to work on? Would you like to be a stage manager for?
Oh, that's easy. I just applied like an hour ago to be the stage manager on Moulin Rouge tour, so hands down. Dream show, manifest for me.
Have you seen it, Rachel?
No, it's like $1 million.
I think it looks beautiful. Beautiful.
I want to.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed for you. I say all the time that, and you guys can judge away as you please, I love Mamma Mia so much. And I tell everyone I work with, I say, if Mamma Mia is ever revived, I will leave the show. I will leave and do Mamma Mia. So Mamma Mia, hands down.
Manifest.
I'm
Yes.
finishing up for that right now. But that's all I have. If anybody has any last minute questions, or else I'll just wrap it up now. Oh, Michaela, go.
Hi again. I kind of feel a bit bummed that I have to like ask a question like this, but earlier Matt mentioned about like taking notes while learning the process of becoming a professional. And again, it's kind of like a pretty work-based question, but I was curious if there are any certifications or skills or tech things or organization stuff that we as individuals trying to be at positions that you guys are in should be learning or should have certifications in for resumes and stuff, and all that.
I don't know. We'll see what Rachel says. I personally don't feel like there are that many things, honestly. I think like the basis is like knowing computer programs, Word and Excel, very basic skills. The only thing that I really would say, and I don't know how old you are or where you are in life, but I tell everyone I know to go to college for stage management. You most definitely do not have to. You do not have to do that. But it gave me I said this earlier, it gave me 4 years of being able to fully stage manage a show and really screw up, really make bad decisions and hone my skill set and become better. So then by the time I graduated, I was able to take a position and impress them, as opposed to get a position and I obviously was still learning, but not like make these huge mistakes. So I think the biggest certification is having a degree in it, because it's a safe place to learn.
Yeah, I would agree. I went to school for theater, but not stage management. So I ended up actually going to grad school in stage management, mostly because I felt like there was no middle in the ladder that I was trying to climb in the Bay Area. I was living in San Francisco. And I found a grad school in Iowa that wanted to pay me to go.
Okay.
Iowa has a cool theater program. You should look it up. I wasn't special. It's just a program. But I liked it because I had 3 years, like Matt said, to like just work on my blocking page and really put together a really nice book and learn how to make a call script. And I made a lot of connections through grad school as well. So I would say that. I would say on like the very base level answer of your question, CPR certification, first aid. It's something you can do that's easy. These days, a COVID compliance certification is also super easy. But otherwise, I can't really think of anything. What's that thing called? Like FileMaker? What is that a thing?
FileMaker Pro, yeah.
Yes, learn FileMaker. I wish I had learned FileMaker.
At Beetlejuice, FileMaker, thank you for the word. I couldn't think of it. We use that for everything. So that was.
I still need to learn that. Yeah, it's on my list.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us.